post-lockout most notable free agent signings. Now, there are still some big names on the board as opening day approaches. Guys like Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, two guys that were in our top 5 shortstop segment in our last episode. Nick Castellanos, a free agent that we broke down as well in the last episode. Another guy that we haven't really talked about, Michael Conforto, as well as Kenley Jansen. These are all guys that are still unsigned, but they should find homes very soon. And big guys have hit the trade market, or the trading block, I should say. Guys like, now this man, he's been in the conversation for a few years now. The starting pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds, Luis Castillo, electric stuff. Don't really know what the Reds are doing. Kind of tore it all down for some reason, but Luis Castillo, his name has always been linked to trades, and he's still in the trading block. Yankees first baseman Luke Voit, he's been in trade talks for about, I would say, a few months now. They were trying to move him at the deadline, and the Yankees, they just re-signed first baseman Anthony Rizzo, so there's really no room for Mr. Voit. So expect him to be on the move. And then we continue with the Oakland Athletics fire sale. They are still looking to move starting pitchers Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea. And our last notable trade candidate is first baseman Eric Hosmer of the San Diego Padres. So lots of big names right there that are going to be on the move, or they're going to be signed within the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. And now we're going to get into the best of the best of these notable transactions. And I'll start it off, Andrew. Freddie Freeman, he came off the board just a few days ago, and he went to actually where you said that he was going to go, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, he went for 6 years at a $162 million clip. That is a great contract. I honestly thought he was going to get more, but it appeared that the Dodgers were the only team that were willing to give him that 6th year. The Yankees were in it towards the end. The Braves, they went out and did another move that Andrew will talk about next. But Freddie Freeman, he is now a part of what you could probably say is the best lineup ever. And this move clearly makes the Dodgers World Series favorites to win, not just to come out of the National League, but to win. And the simple maneuver here is that Freddie Freeman will just take Max Muncy's spot, and with the universal DH, like you said before, Andrew, Max Muncy will then be the designated hitter for the Dodgers. So a great move for the Dodgers, and happy for Freddie Freeman. He gets the money that he deserves.
Yeah, obviously the Dodgers, they're just crazy. Andrew Friedman, every single offseason, always making the big move. Trevor
Great
Bauer,
executive.
Yeah. Mookie Betts, 2020. Then Trevor Bauer last year with Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. And now he gets the best first baseman in baseball to add to an already stacked lineup. Will Smith, Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor. This might be the best offense. Might be the best lineup we've ever seen. Might be.
We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. I know you don't feel very strongly about the Dodgers in the playoffs. I do.
No, 6 games, they're done in the National League Championship Series. That's all I got to say about that.
We will be doing our National League predictions in the coming future, so we'll have to see who we think. Obviously, you already have them out.
Haven't gone that far, though. Definitely haven't gone that far.
Yeah. They're going to be there. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be a 100-win team. This offense.
Easily.
I just don't get how you get past this lineup now with Freeman and all these guys. There's no holes. The biggest hole in their lineup is probably Cody Bellinger, and he's won an MVP. And we'll see if he bounces back this year. So, Freddie Freeman, that Dodgers they just keep doing it, man. So now on to my next move that I'm going to be discussing is Matt Olson to the Braves, which corresponds with our last move because obviously the Braves did not want to give Freeman the 6 years, the big contract. So they decided to pivot to Matt Olson, which is still pretty good. Probably a top 3, top 4, arguably number 2 first baseman in baseball. Probably not number 2. So they trade him. He was traded from the A's to the Braves for 4 prospects, including top former 100 prospect, Christian Pache, who played a little bit in the playoffs, pinch running some for the Braves. And then the next day, Olson actually signed an 8-year, $168 million extension to stay in Atlanta. So pretty good replacement for Freddie Freeman. Not what Braves fans wanted. They obviously wanted Freeman to stay. But to get an incredible bat over I believe over 850, 900 OPS in Oakland, which is a very tough stadium to hit over the past few years. Amazing defender, Gold Glove defender at first base. It's one of the best moves of the offseason for the Braves. So, yeah, as I said, one of the top moves. Good job, Braves.
I think that may be one of the best moves of the offseason. It's an incredible pivot from your franchise player in Freddie Freeman, and you also lock him down for almost a decade. And Matt Olson, he is still very young, and he will provide a very similar thump off the bat that Freddie Freeman has, and very similar defense. They're two very comparable players. I really like this move for the Braves. And I mean, I guess you could say they got a little weaker with not bringing Freddie Freeman back. But honestly, Andrew, I don't really see it that way. I think they just replaced Freddie Freeman with someone who is almost the equivalent of Freddie Freeman. I really like this move for the Braves, and it'll pay dividends for them in the future. Especially, we can look at their contracts. They kind of got him on a very, I don't want to call it a discount, but a very team friendly contract. He signed that extension right away, and he didn't want to test his value out a little bit. They locked him down, and good for the Braves. But they're paying a combined Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, all guys who can be all-stars, and one of them who can be a MVP. They're paying all three of them less than what the Mets are paying Max Scherzer. That is incredible. Those are three incredible bats in that lineup, and those are three guys who are probably top 5 at their respective positions. So great job by Alex Anthopoulos and the Atlanta Braves. But moving on to our next notable transaction, that is going to be Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez to the Seattle Mariners for left-handed pitcher Brandon Williamson, outfielder and former prospect Jake Fraley, and another former prospect, right-handed pitcher Justin Dunn. Now, this is an incredible trade for the Seattle Mariners. I think they are going to be the clear-cut winners of this trade. They get Jesse Winker, who had a 932 OPS in 2020 and a 941 OPS with 32 doubles and 24 home runs in 2021. This is a guy that goes all sorts of fields. He uses each gap, and he hits for a lot of power. He's a very good bat. He's got very good bat to ball skills. What an incredible pickup for the Seattle Mariners, a team that was lacking left-handed hitting in general, but also left-handed thump. Really good pickup in Jesse Winker. And also they add a guy who has shown a lot of power prowess in the past, and that's Eugenio Suarez. He was not that good in the first half of 2021, but he did bounce back and he hit 31 home runs, and he collected an 859 OPS in the second half. But he is a below average fielder. But that bat will compensate for that lack of defense. I think this is a very good pickup. Now, he's got kind of a horrible contract, but in my opinion, I don't think it really matters because he is a very good bounce back candidate. And like I just said, he has shown that he will be able, or that he is able to crank out some power numbers and really be a threat in a lineup that has a lot of offensive threats. So this is a very, very good move, in my opinion, by the Seattle Mariners. We'll see what happens with the Cincinnati Reds. These guys that they got are pretty young, so we'll see how they pan out. But good job by Jerry DiPoto and the Seattle Mariners front office.
Yeah, this was definitely a move that definitely caught me a little off guard. I didn't really see many rumors. We knew the Reds were going to sell off a little bit, trade some of their pieces. I did not know that Winker was on the block. I knew there's a possibility of it, but once I saw it, I was like, whoa. Mariners, they're really going for it. They got Robbie Ray, they got Adam Frazier, now they got Winker and Suarez. They got still need some holes on offense, obviously. Not a very good offense, but the pitching is good. They're probably going to compete for a playoff spot next year. Could compete for the AL West. It's going to be very tough how good the Astros are. Winker, definitely one of the more underappreciated, underrated outfielders in the league. Had incredible last 2 years. But even before that, he was pretty good. But last 2 years, really, when he's made a name for himself. And for the Reds, man, what can you say? Like, it's tough. It's been tough for them. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's kind of an unexpected fire sale, I guess you could call it.
A little
It's a
unexpected.
shame. But yeah, once Castellanos opted out, I mean, I guess you could kind of foreshadow that happening, but it's just a shame because this team was constructed in a very short amount of time, and they did make the playoffs. But I don't know what they're doing over there in Cincinnati, but hopefully they'll be back to where they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's rough because 2020 they really went in that off season, they had Bauer the year before, and then Bauer has that not breakout year, but Cy Young year, and they had an incredible rotation with Bauer and Gray and Castillo, and they just couldn't score a run in the playoffs, so that was rough. So now on to my next move, which was very surprising. Nobody really expected this guy to sign here. In the last episode, I predicted Kris Bryant to go to the Seattle Mariners, as we just discussed, but he actually ended up signing with the Colorado Rockies for 7 years, 182 million. Kris Bryant, good for him getting that bag. Probably the highest bidder, I'd assume so. For the Rockies, I really don't get what their direction is with their franchise right now. I said it when it happened immediately. I was like, this doesn't really make any sense. They're rebuilding. They just got rid of Nolan Arenado, their franchise player, one of their best players ever, and just traded him away after signing him to a huge extension. And now they go and sign Kris Bryant. It's a good move, I guess, for improving the team. But when you're a team that's rebuilding, I really don't get it.
This is the epitome of a head scratcher. That's all you could really say. It made absolutely zero sense. Like you just said, Andrew, they traded Nolan Arenado, who is a better player than Kris Bryant. And also they traded $50 million away to the Cardinals with Nolan Arenado. So, and then they bring in Kris Bryant. And like you said, good for Kris Bryant. This guy got his bag. He got the money that he deserves. The guy has an MVP and a World Series. Now he's just going to go pad those offensive stats in Colorado. But the Rockies, it just poses the question: are they going for it, or are they tearing it down? Like, I don't understand what they're doing over there. But just good for Kris Bryant. That's all I can really say on that.
Yeah, good for Kris Bryant. The Rockies, well, it's kind of expected, but not expected by the Rockies, because the Rockies, what they do as an organization doesn't make sense. It's kind of what like the Kings for basketball, like
Very similar.
They just do whatever, and they're just like, oh yeah, that's the Rockies.
Rockies would rather have a draft compensation pick for Trevor Story than getting multiple prospects for him at the trade deadline. That makes a lot of sense. But my last acquisition of high note, and this is probably my favorite of the three that I've mentioned, is Chris Bassett to the New York Mets for starting pitcher prospect JT Ginn and Adam Oller. Now, Chris Bassett is probably one of the better three starters that we're going to see next year. He was incredible with the A's. He had a 12-4 record last year with a 3.14 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP. He was also an All-Star for the first time last year, and he has finished in the top 10 in Cy Young voting in the last 2 seasons. He had 159 strikeouts to 39 walks. Very good statistics there for Mr. Bassett. And this makes the New York Mets rotation the best in baseball without a doubt. You get Jacob deGrom on day 1, you get Max Scherzer on day 2, and then you get Chris Bassett on day 3. Now, Chris Bassett does not compare to the magnitude of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, but I'll tell you what, he is a phenomenal 3 starter to have. Adds incredible depth to an already strong New York Mets rotation. And as I just said, I think this is going to be the move that makes the Mets the best starting rotation in Major League Baseball. So good job, Uncle Steve Cohen. He went out and got that starting rotation depth. And I think this move also solidifies them as the clear-cut favorite to win the National League East.
Yeah, I think they were already the favorite to win the NL East, but this definitely solidifies it. Best rotation in baseball, as you said, 1 to 5, just deep. Every single starter is probably going to give you a quality start on any average day. Even Carlos Carrasco, number 5 starter. Actually, maybe not, because he really didn't pitch much last year.
Another bounce back candidate, though.
Yeah,
He had great years with Cleveland, so keep an eye on
yeah,
Carlos Carrasco.
definitely. Bassett, this was a move that I wasn't really I was expecting the Mets to get a starting pitcher, not one of this caliber. Chris Bassett is someone who, over the last few years, has been top 10 in some categories, such as WHIP, Ks per nine, ERA. I'd even consider him a top 20 pitcher in baseball. So now the Mets have three. He's probably more of a two for most rotations, but you can say they have three aces now, which when you have three aces, that's a pretty good rotation. And it's definitely gonna
I would
get,
say so.
yeah, definitely gonna win you some games with DeGrom, best pitcher in baseball, Scherzer, top 3 pitcher in baseball, and then Chris Bassett, a top 20 pitcher in baseball. So once again, good job, Steve Cohen. He's done it again. Great offseason for the Mets. And now moving on to the final move that I'll be talking about, which is Carlos Rodon signing with the San Francisco Giants for 2 years, $44 million, which is, in my opinion, a bit of a bargain because Carlos Rodon, I think, at his potential, is like a $30 million pitcher, as he showed last year. But 2020 didn't really pitch much because of injuries. 2019 wasn't that good. He had an incredible bounce back year last year, 2.37 ERA in 132 innings, 12.6 Ks per nine. But as I mentioned, the 132 innings, he does have an injury concern. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy, which is why he was only able to get 22 million a year instead of the 30 million that I think his value is really at. Because we saw the perfect game, near perfect game until the last batter. He was a Cy Young candidate. Probably could have finished first even if he didn't get hurt. So the Giants, great move replacing Gosman with their dome, and just one of the deepest rotations in baseball now. They added Matt Boyd, they added Alex Cobb, they brought back Wood and DeSclafani. So the Giants, they're definitely up there. I don't think they're going to win the NL East because we said the Dodgers are crazy, but I think they'll finish second.
Yeah, Andrew, I think that's a very good corresponding move to losing your ace in Kevin Gausman. Carlos Rodon can be an ace in certain rotations. I don't know if I agree with you as him being a $30 million pitcher, maybe 25, but he definitely deserves big money though, because that season he had last year, that warrants big money. And he, as you said, he adds to an already deep Giants rotation. That Giants rotation to me is going to be one of the most underrated in baseball, and it will help them get into a wild card spot in the National League. I personally do agree with you as well. I think they will be better than the San Diego Padres again. I really do. The lineup, it did take a hit. They did lose Buster Posey and they did lose Kris Bryant, but it's still strong enough where they're going to score a decent amount of runs. And the pitching rotation didn't really take a hit at all. If anything, it got a little better and it got a little deeper. So, I would definitely keep an eye out on the Giants in the National League. And that is going to wrap up our most notable free agent signings. But before we switch over to our next segment around the horn, I'm just going to rattle off some of the other notable transactions that have occurred. Matt Chapman, third baseman, Platinum Glove winner to the Toronto Blue Jays. Nelson Cruz, DH, new DH for the Washington Nationals. Josh Donaldson, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and top catching prospect Ben Reutevet. They were traded to the New York Yankees for Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. Kyle Schwarber signed a 4-year, $79 million pact with the Philadelphia Phillies. Seiya Suzuki, he signed from Japan a 5-year, $85 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. Clayton Kershaw, he returned to the Los Angeles Dodgers where he belongs. Yusei Kikuchi, he signed a 3-year, $36 million deal to bolster that Toronto Blue Jays rotation. Anthony Rizzo, as we previously mentioned, he returns to the Yankees on a 2-year, $32 million deal. Ryan Tepera, a very sneaky move here. He goes to the Angels, really bolsters that bullpen. Andrew McCutchen, he heads over to Milwaukee. Sonny Gray was traded to the Minnesota Twins for pitching prospect and former first-round pick in 2021, Chase Petty. Eddie Rosario, he goes back to the Braves on a 2-year, $18 million deal, the postseason hero for the Atlanta Braves last season. Zach Greinke, he goes back to where it all started, to the Kansas City Royals, 1 year, $13 million. The White Sox, they continue to bolster that bullpen. Joe Kelly, he goes to the White Sox for a 2-year, $17 million deal. And the last of the notable acquisitions, Alex Colome, very strong, and not